Howdy, YouTube. Hope you're doing well. I'm doing pretty good myself. Let's check our handy dandy app. Oh, great. We can track how many days we've spent on the island. And I've only spent 3, making this the 3rd episode of our little series. I did say I would try to play this game off camera, but I haven't so far. I think that's okay for now. Let's visit, before we get into today's talk, we'll call it, you know. Let's visit our neighbors real quick. So whose house is this? It is Tank's house. Let's see how he's doing. Hey, Tank. Huh? It's Wolf. How are you doing? We haven't caught up lately, Kerpow. I saw you around the other day. You had quite a spring in your step. Have you been skipping a leg day? How could I be skipping? Wait, did he say I had a spring in my step and I skipped leg day? Not sure how that added up. These jock villagers always keep you on your toes, but glad to see he's doing all right. Well, that was Tank for you. Let's go see if our other neighbor is home right now. Ursula. Oh no, Ursula's right here. Hey, Ursula. Well, look who it is. Hey, Wolf. I haven't talked to you in a bit. I mean, I've seen you around, but I guess we've both been too busy to chat. Well, that's why I'm checking in. And that's sort of something I want to talk about today. And that's time. And what's so important about time is knowing how to treat it and how to think about it in your day-to-day life. I want to say used to, but I think I still am to a small degree. Somebody who worries about time a lot. I tend to focus on how much time something is going to either take, or how much time I have, or if I'm willing to put in a certain amount of time towards something. And I can tell you right now, sometimes you don't need to worry about time that much. In fact, a good amount of us will feel like we're constantly running out of it. Like there's not enough time in the day. When am I gonna find the time to do all these hobbies? If I want to develop a new skill, how much time is that gonna take versus the time I could be spending doing something else? Time is a very important resource for a lot of us, or at least we treat it as such. And in today's video, I kind of want to tell you that, like, you have way more time than you actually think. For example, Animal Crossing is a game that kind of requires a lot of time. You would think at first. There are different things to experience every day. And if you were to miss a day, well, you would potentially miss something in the game, like maybe a holiday or a special event or something like that. And that's sort of a lesson that this game kind of teaches you. You can't like you could play 365 days a year and experience everything in this game. But you don't have to do that. In fact, in this portion of the game where we're at right now, if I don't turn in 10 different creatures to Tom Nook, I won't actually progress in the game. And a lot of people actually might not like realize this part of the game is asking you to do this. Because by giving Tom Nook 10 different types of creatures, you begin the quote-unquote quest line to bring the museum into your island. And so here's Tom Nook explaining that to us. So for example, if I were to just not notice that Tom Nook needed this from me, and I just kept selling the creatures for bells and hoarding money just to say, you know, great, I can pay off the money I owe Tom Nook, you might never realize that you're not progressing the game. You might turn the game on, play for a bit, sell all the things you found, and then, you know, repeat that cycle. If this is your first Animal Crossing, you might be wondering, what am I supposed to do in this game? It's always the same thing in and out every day. Now, you know, most people will come to the natural conclusion of like, oh, I need to talk to Tom Nook and he'll tell me what I need to do. But I want to use that as a metaphor of what it's like to focus on the wrong thing for too long, or maybe thinking that like you're not making progress or you're wasting time. And I want you to know that that's simply not true. Or rather, if you just shift your perspective slightly, you can improve that aspect of your life. Like a lot of the times we give importance to certain things and we put in a lot of time and effort towards those things we think take priority, without realizing that where we are in life, we actually have a different path we can follow. One that, you know, may provide us different advantages. Or simply something we're just not seeing, you know? Maybe we're making the work harder for ourselves without realizing it. And, you know, that's not something I want for anybody. So, if there was anything to take away from today's video, it would be this. You have so much time. No matter how much time you think you've used up already or how much you have left, that it's all about how you use it and how you think about time. Because the more time you spend worrying about time, the less time you end up having. And don't let that, you know, it is sort of like a feedback loop of like, oh no, I'm running out of time, what should I do? Oh no, worrying about time is using up my time, and now I have less time. It's okay. It's perfectly okay to switch it up in the middle of like your life, your path, whatever you may be working on. And this is something that happens to me quite a lot with projects. If I ever start a project and I feel like I can't progress in the project or I get stuck somewhere, I can sometimes feel like I've wasted my time, you know, getting this far in the project and not being able to progress. But I think it's an important lesson to understand that that's not entirely the truth. You spent your time learning and improving on a skill that you may have or were training, and all the work you've done is just experience, practice, it's training. Even if you start over, you don't unacquire the knowledge and expertise you got from working on said thing. So you can never truly learn progress if it's progress towards learning something. Despite how many times you may feel like you forget a certain skill, you may be rusty. Like, let's say you haven't drawn in like 5 years. You used to draw so much, and then you start drawing again, and you're not as good as you used to be, but you didn't forget how to draw a circle. You didn't forget what lines are and how you can use them to give your drawings sort of life and your own spin on things. There are tons of skills and abilities and things you teach yourself that are never going to go away. You might need a refresher from time to time, but that's okay. A refresher is just to sort of get back in the groove of things. It's kind of like physical fitness. You can be fit, go to the gym, work out, do all these things, and you can stop for a while, and your muscles may go away. But depending on, you know, if you're smart about it and careful, you can work back towards where you were. Now, biology is a little different, but again, you know, depending on how you take care of it and how often you commit to it, you can maintain a pretty healthy muscle. And I think we should treat time the same way. We shouldn't worry about, oh no, like, what happens if I stop doing this? Or like, what if I get unmotivated halfway through? Like, I'm gonna waste all that time working on said thing. You can just do it. You can start small. You can create a small positive feedback loop and use your time efficiently. Even if it's not correct, you can still be efficient about your time and responsible if you spend less time stressing over the little details and just going for it. Because even when you fail, you are learning something, and that's like a hard pill to swallow sometimes, because we want to be so good right out the gates. Let's see what Blathers is here to say. Well, Tom Nook, because we're on this side of the conversation. So Tom's telling Blathers that we're on YouTube right now and that he should bring his museum to us. And the museum will be a great place to store and archive all of our findings here on the island. And there should be some interesting talks to be had in there as well. The museum is a very relaxing place, but it's going to take some time to build it and collect all the materials that we need for it. So he's coming to the island, and Tom Nook needs our help. So we need to find a spot for the museum. But yeah, back to the topic at hand. Animal Crossing is a game that I played a long time ago. And it might have taught me the very thing that I sort of I don't want to say have trouble with, but it taught me how important your time is, but also how loosely we can interpret what we do with it. To put it in other words, you can live your life thinking really hard about what you do day to day, planning out your week, your month, your year, setting goals and sort of meeting deadlines. You can be as organized as you possibly can be. Organization is good. Dedication and discipline is good. But I think an important lesson that I picked up from playing a game that changes every day, or rather runs off of the real world clock, is that some days you won't get to play. You're gonna have to miss some days within Animal Crossing. And that's still okay, because you can always play another time. And things may be different. You may have missed something from a previous day, but it'll come back. The year will roll over as it follows the real clock. And then you'll get a second chance at playing the game on that day. And with life, we have to identify what those days are, what those events and timelines are that we may treat like they're a once in a lifetime or like one time event, when in reality, we may have more than one single opportunity. We may have multiple opportunities to try the same thing. We may think that like, oh man, I only have one shot at this. When in reality, you can take your time. There's so much time to be saved. And I think that's something we don't think about. Saving time. Saving time for our future. And it works a little bit like finances. Now, recently I've been exposed to a lot of financial improvement in the form of like YouTube videos and word of mouth, basically like training. And one of the things I noticed through budgeting and sort of like being more deliberate about my finances is that little adjustments, little changes in your routine can go a long way. So when I was trying out my budget for the first time, I noticed that I was spending a lot of money on the vending machine at work. I would, get a snack, a drink, just something to get me through the day, every day, Monday to Friday. And I added that up over the span of a month, and I saw it was a good chunk of money. And well, I decided, well, if I'm gonna save at all, I might as well start there. So for a month, I tested it out. I stopped, using the vending machine. And I also opted for cheaper lunch options. Actual budgeting kind of stuff. And some people might find budgeting difficult, and I totally understand it. I don't like to prevent or like stop myself from enjoying something. And like that's not how you should budget, I believe. You don't have to punish yourself, you know? It's kind of like if you have a really strict weight loss goal and you absolutely deny yourself from any kind of food besides like, you know, like I'm talking about taking things to the extreme. And unless like it's necessary for whatever exterior third reason, if you can help it, you don't need to punish yourself to gain the benefits of like budgeting or a diet, etc., etc. But what I noticed, or what happened after a month of not spending any money at the vending machine, I legitimately stopped using the vending machine and only purchased lunch. And I purchased a cheap, healthier option for lunch for a month straight. And I saved up $1,000 out of thin air just by doing that. And so I want to relate that to time, because we can sort of do the same thing with time. We often worry about like how much time we have, how much time we don't have, how much time we're using, you know, doing this thing over that thing. Well, you can also budget your time. If you really think about it, you know how much time, how many hours there are in a day. You know what time you'd like to go to bed and what time you need to wake up to do, you know, go to work, go to school, work on a certain thing, you know, build up a specific routine. And the savings come in, well, your free time. You actually have a lot more free time than you think. Besides sleeping and, you know, most likely a job, everything outside of that is technically free time. Obviously, if you have a family to take care of, well, that's another responsibility. You can add that to the equation. And once you know how much time you have left over, well, it's really up to like your priorities. What are you willing to spend more time on? Now, this YouTube channel is more so like a gaming channel, so I'm going to relate a lot more to gamers. And a very common thing I see amongst myself and friends and other gamers is that like we don't feel like we have a lot of time for games anymore, especially as an adult gamer. There's so many games, and a lot of games take so much time to play, and we only have so much time in the day after working all day, and we need sleep. So when do we play these games? Well, it's time to prioritize. Which game matters more to you in this very moment? Which game would you rather be working on? How much time do you actually want to spend playing those games? You can budget out your time for specific games. If you want to play multiple games, you can dedicate an hour to each game. You know, tell yourself, I'm going to start at this time and I'm going to stop at this time. Or I'll start whenever, but when I do, I'm only going to play for this long. And it might be tough because each game is a little different. Certain games demand a certain amount out of you. But by just playing the game, you can get so much done. Let me elaborate on that after we talk to Ursula. Yo, Grumph. Thanks for stopping by. I want to chat. I kind of moved here on a whim, and I'm not sure I brought enough bells with me, Grumph. Like, you're here deserted island, and you think you're not even gonna need money. Yeah, I need a plan. I heard I can get bells selling fruits and weeds and stuff to Timmy. If I do that, maybe I'll be alright. So that's just a helpful little tip. Ursaluna. I enjoy Pokemon. Ursula. Just a helpful little tip. Selling things to Timmy for money. And yeah, that's pretty much like our job here on the island. But to get back to my point, budgeting your time with video games sounds like an impossible task. There's way too many games, and some games are very demanding and require so much of your time. Oh no, my pockets are full. Let's drop the stick for now. There's so many games, and some of them are very demanding. But let's be real for a moment here, you know? How much time should we be spending on games? Now, this isn't a morality thing or an ethical question of like, should we really be playing video games all day? Hey, as a gamer, it's our hobby. It's what we do. It's instead of watching TV or like, this is going to be very difficult to say because it involves me listing other hobbies that people value more over video games. If you're one of these people, there's nothing wrong with what we do with our free time. If you want to watch TV, if you want to read a book, if you want to cook or do gardening or anything else with your free time, that's great. As a gamer, my decision is to play games with my free time. And so games feel like a very like time intensive activity, but it doesn't have to be. I can tell myself, well, every day I'm going to play games for an hour or two a day. And that's how much gaming I'm going to get in for the week. And if that feels like enough, then it's enough. I don't need to min-max my time. Well, no, what I'm trying to say is, yes, I should min-max my time. But I don't have to squeeze out every little minute I have in my day just to make sure it's spent doing absolutely nothing but gaming or any other activity for that matter. The point I'm trying to get across is that we have so much time. We just have to stop worrying about how much time we have and just start using it. Section it off. Look for the things that matter the most. And spend your time doing those things. The things you actually care about. And when it comes to games, find the games you actually care about. It's very easy to fall into this loop of like, oh, I want to play this one game, but it takes so many hours to beat, so I'm just going to play this other game that's like a free-to-play competitive game that just like has the same gameplay loop, so I can play that forever technically, and like I have, you know, enough time to play that, right? I got distracted by that letter. But sometimes we decide to opt for the game we're not as interested in. Just for the sake of time. Oh man, I can't beat this 100-hour single-player game because I just don't have the time. So I'm just going to spend my 2 hours of gaming today on a competitive game that I've played 200 times over, and I gain nothing new from the experience. And don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to dunk on competitive free-to-play games. I play them with my time. I'd even argue that those games are best enjoyed with friends, and I value my time with my friends. So I value my time playing those games with my friends. Even though the game can get stale, hanging out with my friends never will. And that's where I value my time. So that's what I do. And with my free time that I'm not gaming with friends, I spend doing other things that serve me, like making YouTube videos or thinking about Dungeons and Dragons, or working on new skills and, you know, seeing what areas I can improve in, making plans for the future. So don't go spending your time on things that don't matter to you. Don't worry about how much time you don't have. Start using the time you do have right now. Now is the only time that should matter. And then Animal Crossing, the game's trying to tell you that you can play this game whenever. Things are going to change and move forward with or without you. The seasons are going to change and the years are going to roll over. But you can't spend the entire time worrying about what's going to happen when you're not playing the game. Play the game. Or don't. But with life, you kind of just have to play life the whole time. And some days you can take it easy. Some days you can go all in. But as long as you're doing anything, I think you're spending your time as best as you can. And don't ever worry about wasting time. Because you quite literally can't waste time. It's sort of happening around you, not to you in a way. Obviously, as a physical human being on the planet Earth, you are experiencing time from a physical standpoint, but you get what I mean. The world's gonna keep turning, the seasons are gonna keep changing, the game's gonna keep moving forward, whether you're playing it or not, and you just need to decide when you care the most to actually play. So yeah, I'm the type of person that spends a lot of his time thinking about time. And in doing that, I've realized how redundant that is. So maybe as words of advice or just a warning, or really just if you can relate to this feeling, I want you to know that, like, we're not bound by this. We can just realize how wrong we were and just move forward with this new piece of information, with this new outlook on how we feel about time. And speaking of, I think I've spent enough time on this video. And honestly, I wouldn't have it any other way. I enjoy talking to you and sharing these sorts of thoughts. So, thank you for spending your time with me. And I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.